battle. Beast Boy has the ability to change into a multitude of different animals, and over the course of the series, he shapeshifts into 22 different animals. The most common are a gorilla, a tiger, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, hawk, and even an elephant. Beast Boy's fighting style is actually quite eclectic. You never really know what you're going to get from him, and this aids in battle. He can use some of his animals to scout and beat distractions. He can transform into a huge dinosaur for crowd control. He has really good agile defenses, like turning into cheetahs and wolves and tigers when he's backed up against a wall. And since he's one of the 3 titans that can fly, he can use aerial maneuvers. Fighters have done a really good job at making him balanced. He has a plethora of different skills, but he's not a heavy hitter. He's more utilitarian. And I've also noticed that his bigger animals, like dinosaurs and elephants, don't tend to last too long, so it doesn't feel like he's OP. Now that we know that Beast Boy is quite literally the team's skill monkey, how does that translate to usefulness outside of battle? Once again, that flight can help him scout enemies. He can have the ability to turn into a bloodhound to sniff things out. He's great for tracking. His powers allow him to easily navigate underwater missions, and that's something that none of the other Titans really have the ability to do without some kind of submarine. So anytime there's water, Beast Boy is usually the first one who's going to jump in. Once again, since he is capable of flight, he can also lend that to either Robin or Cyborg. And especially when they have a fast villain, it's great to have one of the Titans who can lift them up just in case Robin or Cyborg don't have their car or motorcycle handy. Debate. Beast Boy is the team's comic relief, but I also find it kind of surprising that he's very philosophical. There have been many instances where instead of fighting an enemy, he will try and get to their heart. This is most evident with Thunder of Thunder and Lightning and his multi-season arc with Terra. This has varying results though, but it's always great to have a team member who's a diplomat to a certain degree. All right. I decided to add a weakness section. Beast Boy has a problem with being hypnotized. He's usually the most susceptible to hypnotism, and it usually takes a lot to get him out of it. Also have been a couple of occasions where he's stuck in some kind of altered mental state, like when he was turned into a dog, or in The Beast Within in season 4, where he was trapped like in some kind of feral beast mindset. And the problem with these mindsets is that when he's transformed, he loses his ability to talk. So usually the Titans have to come in and help him from the outside and try and figure it out. Was it Beast Boy the strongest Titan? Well, he has great defenses and a great offense. The only problem is that his transformations can be limited some of the time, and he's not a big heavy hitter. But as to whether he's the strongest, that will be decided once I do my other rankings. She's kind of dumb, but she's strong. So here we have her beautiful shining star broken down into combat and usefulness in battle. Now, depending on the canon, it's either because she was experimented on or by the nature of being a Tamaranian, Starfire has the power to emit ultraviolet bolts from her hands. Energy attacks produce both thermal energy and highly explosive results by contact. Flight. By having a sense of unbridled joy, Starfire is able to fly. These two here make her a very interesting fighter within the Teen Titans. Starfire is good at mid-range attacks and being able to quickly dole out damage while being able to stay far away. Starfire is also interesting because she is one of the 2 Teen Titans who I would consider the team's muscle. She has super strength, and it has even been shown to be just as strong, or if not stronger, than Cyborg. This is also great because when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, she's going to do it. If she's not throwing starbolts, she's throwing a kick. If she's not throwing a kick, she's throwing the punch. You can count on Starfire to have an arsenal of different ways to deal damage during a fight. Like, she is a warrior princess. Emphasis on warrior. Do not let the 30 inches and skinny waist fool you. Season 2, Starfire goes through a transformation where she can also emit these bolts through her eyes, and she gets laser vision. So if her hands are bound, which was part of her weakness before, she can use her eyes instead. We don't see this often, but Starfire can also use her starbolts as a shield. So now that we know that Starfire is good at combat, she's the team muscle, and she's got decent defenses, how is she useful outside of battle? Like Beast Boy, she is one of the resident taxis in the group. When a villain is too fast for a Cyborg or Robin to be able to get their car or their motorcycle, you can count on Starfire to be able to give them a lift. Starfire can also use her starbolts to emit light in a dark room. Starfire has 9 stomachs, and I find this interesting because in my headcanon, this adds to the super strength and invulnerability. Since she can eat a lot, it adds to the fact that she would be able to have strength and stamina. Because Starfire can take a hit, and I think it's because of that metabolism, baby. She's not missing any meals. Almost misspelled there. Now to the weaknesses. Like I've said before, Starfire has a problem with being naive. And the creators, when coming up with her for the TV show, wanted her to seem like a foreign exchange student coming to Earth and trying to figure out the lay of the land. When it comes to Blackfire, she always wants to see the best in her. She always wants to see the best in people, which is interesting because I forgot to mention that one of her biggest strengths is intuition. She's usually the first one to clock somebody's T before any of the other Titans. For example, when Robin was a double agent for Slade in season 1, she was the first one to figure that out. She was the first one to know something was wrong. And you see this multiple times throughout the season, but when there's a personal connection, i.e. family, or even with Terra, she's not as willing to let it slide. Does that negate all of her other strengths? We will see once I do my other rankings. She's a tank and yet fragile. Here we have the second in command, broken down into combat and usefulness outside of battle. Cyborg has a lot of artillery under his belt, and he's mainly known for his blast cannon that he can pull out at any moment. I think what's fun about Cyborg is that even though he looks like he's going to be this big, bulky tank, which he is, a lot of times he does rely on his gadgets and his firepower to get the job done. But also, like I said, he is a tank. It's not even just so much about strength. It's also the fact that he can take a huge hit. He can take on a lot of damage and still keep going. And it's this that allows the other Titans to fight just as ferociously because they know that Cyborg is going to have their back. He's usually one of the first ones to jump into battle, especially when a foe is huge. If you need a cannon, he's got it. If you need rocket boosters, he's got it. If you need a cable for grappling, he's got it. If you need to cut through metal, he has an energy blade. Like, there's so much that goes into Cyborg, and I know that some of these come from Teen Titans Go, where it's kind of a gag, but I do think that it's cool that, you know, he's basically technology, and so technology evolves, and so the Cyborg should evolve. Cyborg has some of the best battle awareness in the group. Starfire may rely on raw firepower, Robin may rely on strategy, and Raven is usually in the back waiting for a good time to strike. But I think that Cyborg does well in all of these arenas. He's got the firepower, he's got the adaptability, he's got raw strength, and he's got strategy behind it. He's almost like the best of all of them if you really think about it. And I think this makes him an excellent second command, especially when Robin can tend to go a little rogue. So now that we know that he's good at firepower, being a tank, he's adaptable, and he has some of the best battle experience in the group, how does he fare outside of battle? Since Cyborg's upkeep is very personal, it extends to the rest of the way that he lives his life, i.e. how he upholds the Titan's Tower, as well as the gadgets that he can create for the team. A lot of the things in Titan's Tower, like the doors, the security systems, the communications, the vehicles that they use, are all built and maintained by Cyborg, and this makes him indispensable within the team. Without Cyborg, there is no Titan's Tower. In an extension with that, he's a hacker. So if there is a technological problem that needs to be broken through, it's most likely always Cyborg that's going to be able to go in and do the thing. As I'm doing these rewatches and this research, I'm realizing that all of the Titans share a piece of the heart of the team in different ways. And I think it's that adaptability that we see in his battle that translates to the heart. Cyborg, I think, has some of the most balanced relationships between all of the Titans. He can joke along with Beast Boy, and he can also have serious conversations with Raven and also respect her privacy. Big brother to Starfire. He's really a big brother to everybody. That's what makes Cyborg's character so great, is that adaptability, not only in battle, but also just in a personable way. His spy work. During the season when he infiltrated the Hive, Cyborg was able to use his personal skills and his adaptability to be able to make friends with the enemy. And I think this is super underrated. I think while, yes, Robin may be your first guess when it comes to being a spy, Robin doesn't have the charisma that Cyborg has to pull off such a feat, especially with multiple enemies. And so I think this is I think one of the most underrated parts of Cyborg's usefulness. Now to the weaknesses. Unfortunately, one of Cyborg's greatest strengths is also one of his greatest weaknesses, particularly in the first season, especially with what's his name? Cyborg was getting hacked over and over again. And luckily, he will find different ways to stop this from happening. But I think because Cyborg can be a little slow, if he does have an enemy who's technologically savvy and quick, it can be easy for him to be dismantled and overpowered. Luckily, this isn't something that I think is a glaring flaw, but it is something to be considered. So, is Cyborg the strongest Titan? He definitely has a lot going on for him, which I think is wonderful. He's got firepower, he's a tank, and he's also super smart. But we will see once we get to my final ranking. Robin is a lot. All right, we know the drill. Combat, usefulness outside of battle. Probably one of the strongest non-humans within the Teen Titans universe. He's capable of lifting grown adult men, breaking through reinforced materials, and holding his own against enhanced opponents like Cinderblock and Mammoth. While compared to the other Titans, he's not as strong, it's still pretty impressive considering his stature. Speed is arguably his greatest physical attribute. His acrobatics make him incredibly difficult to hit. He can flip through gunfire and dodge lasers and outrun explosions, and he can attack from all angles. Durability. Now, I think this has more to do with his costume, if anything. It is mentioned throughout the series that his costume is enhanced with alloys and that even his cape is bulletproof. But even with that, he has been kicked through walls and has fallen several feet, which could be deadly. And I think this just has to do with plot armor, because if he's too weak, then what's the point of being a superhero? But it still stands that Robin can take a lot of hits. Versatility. He's giving versatility. So Robin's versatility comes from preparation. He is constantly training. He knows multiple martial arts, studies strengths and weaknesses, and it's this versatility and skill that allowed him to whoop the Titans not once, but twice. So he's got that going for him. Outside of his speed, this is probably his best attribute. When he's not going rogue, Robin is the team's tactician as well as the leader. He's a natural-born leader. I would say that he's very fair, once again, when he's not, losing his marbles. But we know that Robin is kind of a mixed bag, similar to Beast Boy, where he's got peak conditioning, peak strength, versatility, and leadership. How is he useful outside of battle? Like his mentor Batman, Robin is a master detective. Robin constantly investigates crimes, gathers evidence, tracks villains, and once again, it's this that allows him to kind of go haywire. And this is really interesting because Robin, multiple times throughout the series, has been shown to be a double agent, and he's usually using his detective skills for good, even when he's forced into a situation where he has to turn back on his friends, like he did the first time he linked up with Slade. Outside of Cyborg, Robin is next up when it comes to the maintenance of the team's gadgets, as well as the Titan's Tower. I also believe that Robin is also behind the upkeep and creation of all the gadgets that he has under his belt. This also goes along with his versatility as well. Robin, outside of his peak human condition, is really nothing without his gadgets. Now, this could go along with the detective work, but Robin, I think, out of all the Titans, even Beast Boy, even though Beast Boy is a special case because he can literally turn into a mouse to sneak around, but Robin is able to get through highly guarded areas without making a peep. And I think this goes hand in hand, once again, with that detective work. Here goes the weakness. The problem with Robin is that he's too good for his own good. It is kind of like Batman, where sometimes he can go off the rails. That's why I think the team needs a second in command like Cyborg, who's able to kind of keep things in perspective. Is Robin the strongest Titan? I'm not going to say nothing until my official ranking, but all I know is that for somebody who does not have any superpowers, he be whooping everybody's butts every single time. I love my girl Raven, but she kinda... Alright, here we have her demon spawn broken down into combat and usefulness outside of battle. Raven possesses one of the broadest power sets in the series. She can manipulate darkness, she has telekinesis, she has energy blast, portals, force fields, flights, teleportation, astral projection, magical sealing, soul manipulation, countless magical and mystical abilities. So her potential is so immense that she even has to go through great lengths in order to minimize her powers. Not only so it doesn't overtake her enemies, but also herself. She's not the most physically strong when it comes to the Titans. I would say out of all of them, probably the most physically weak, but she makes up for it by using her powers to supplement this. She's even been shown to use her powers in hand-to-hand combat. Because of that power, that I think Raven has some of the best defenses out of the Titans. She has force fields and barriers that allow not only herself, but the other Titans to duck and cover. Raven also has intelligence that combines with her mystical knowledge. She understands ancient spells and demons and magical artifacts. She has knowledge of different dimensions and the supernatural. Her calm demeanor also allows her to stay calm under pressure, which allows her to give insights into battles that some of the other Titans may not have. And it's because of all of this that she's the most versatile out of the Teen Titans. And whether it's defense, teleportation, healing, Raven is almost like Robin, where she can pull something out of thin air that can allow her to be useful within the group. So now that we know that she is the most versatile of the Teen Titans, how is she useful outside of battle? Well, once again, we can take that knowledge and put it right over here. Since Raven serves as the team's magic expert, whenever it comes to demons and curses and supernatural threats, she has a book or just a story somewhere that gives insight into the greater battle. She has the ability to make portals. She can move teammates across long distances or even escape situations instantaneously. Raven's magic can allow her to levitate objects and repair situations, and even contain dangerous artifacts. So she's actually quite useful even outside of battle. In fact, I feel like we see her use her powers more leisurely than we do when she's on the battlefield, which I think is just fun in the series. And I've said this in my previous videos, but it seems like all of the Titans can serve as the heart of the team. It's just that they serve as a heart in a myriad of different ways. When it comes to being an emotional anchor and reminding the other Titans that they do have control over their emotions and that they don't have to allow their emotions to overtake them, usually Raven is giving that story because for her it's the most personal. Like, knows what it's like to have her emotions get out of control and have to contain that for the greater good. And what's ironic about our girl Raven is that she's the one who has the most power and yet the most weaknesses. One of them is that Raven can be pretty slow, not only in terms of maneuvering around the battlefield, but also when it comes to giving out her spells. As we know, the famous spell Azura Metreon Synthos, if she has her mouth covered or if she's not able to say it fast enough, it can negate her power, and then she has to worry about kind of getting up to speed. Not only that, but since she's so powerful and she has to literally section off different portions of herself in order to be able to contain her powers, this makes her vulnerable because if she gets too emotional, she can lose control. And she can also be very hard to control. It's hard for her to pull back. Raven is what I affectionately would like to call high maintenance because so much of what she does when it comes to the meditating, when it comes to sealing off certain powers and magical artifacts, sealing things in books, like Raven has a lot, it takes a lot of energy just to have an equilibrium. Of course, family drama. She's the daughter of a demon. Aren't we all? So, it's fun, but it's fun to see because I think that's what I've liked about Teen Titans is that they're good with power scaling. Like, she can't be all powerful and then have no weaknesses. That's no fun. Like, it allows us to explore her powers in depth because she has so many weaknesses. And I think that's why Raven is often one of the most relatable Teen Titans because so much talent and yet so much upkeep. So is she the strongest Titan? Many would say so, but I also think it depends on the context, and I will get to that once I do my ranking, which is right after this video. My official Teen Titans ranking. Start off by saying that this was extremely hard for me to do, and that many of these were very, very close. Girl, I love you, and you're one of the powerhouses of the team. However, I do feel like the others have more skills, and they're not just a cannon. I love you down, but your bigger transformations tend to be deceiving because the visual does not match what the strength should be. This was also hard for me, because I think that Cyborg arguably is probably the most useful. If we're gonna, like, on a technological level. He's a tank, he's got strength, he's got a lot of versatility, but I do think that when it comes to speed and overall power, the other Titans have him beat. Alright, this is where it was tripping me up, and just know that this was very close. Robin, you've beaten the Titans twice. And so in terms of raw power, you're not up there, but you've shown multiple times that you know how to whoop people down. Which leaves the obvious answer, Raven. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. Robin has beaten Raven twice. Shouldn't he be up there? And my answer to that is that if you think that Raven at full raw power is not whooping Robin down, I don't know what to tell you. I said this was hard because the Teen Titans, they're all like stacked. Each and every one of them has their own skills, they have their own strengths, and I think that's what makes them such a compelling team. But it's time for the next team, which let me know how you felt in the comments, because like I said, this ranking was very hard for me.